Zara Okonkwo sat in the back row of her advanced stellar navigation class, staring at the star chart projected on the wall. Her fingers tapped against the desk in a steady rhythm. Tap, tap, tap. The same rhythm as artillery fire. The same rhythm that had filled her ears for 3 years, when she was just a child. The other students around her complained about the cafeteria food. They said the synthetic chicken tasted weird. Zara said nothing. She remembered eating gray paste from tubes for 2 years straight on Proxima Centauri. She remembered when even that ran out, Miss Okonkwo? Mr. Yoshida's voice cut through her thoughts. Can you calculate the jump trajectory for this scenario? Zara looked up at the screen. The star chart showed Proxima Centauri, her homeworld. The world the Kethran Empire had destroyed when she was 11 years old. Suddenly, she wasn't in the classroom anymore. She was back in the underground shelter, holding her little brother's hand. Listening to his breathing get slower and slower until it stopped. I need to go, Zara whispered. She grabbed her bag and ran from the classroom. Behind her, she heard students laughing. She heard someone say, "There she goes again." This was the 3rd time this week. Zara ran through the halls of New Geneva Secondary School. The school was built on Europa, one of Jupiter's moons. Everything was clean and white and safe. Nothing like the war. Nothing like the shelters where she had spent 3 years hiding from. Orbital bombardment. She found herself in the observation deck. Through the thick glass, she could see Europa's ice fields stretching out forever. Beautiful, peaceful, empty. 3rd time this week, Zara. Mrs. Chun, the school counselor, appeared beside her. The woman's voice was kind but tired. We need to talk about these episodes. Zara nodded. She knew what Mrs. Chun would say. The same thing she always said. That Zara was safe now. That the war was over. That she needed to move forward with her life, but Mrs. Chun didn't know what Zara knew. What Zara had discovered 3 days ago when she hacked into the school's network system. Zara had a talent for computers. She had developed it during the war when she was just 13 years old. She had hacked into Kethran military communications and found enemy positions. She had saved 300 people by warning them before bombardments came. She had been a hero then. Now she was just the broken girl who couldn't sit through a math class. But 3 days ago, while searching through the school's network, Zara had found something. Encrypted military communications. Signals that shouldn't have been there. And when she decoded them, she saw the truth. The Kethrans were moving again. Their fleet had left their territory, and they were heading toward the Sol system, toward Earth, toward Jupiter, toward Europa, toward her. I'm fine, Mrs. Chun, Zara lead. I just needed some air. This isn't healthy, Zara. Running away from class won't help you graduate. You're a smart girl. You survived something terrible. But you're safe now. You need to focus on your future. Zara wanted to scream. She wanted to tell Mrs. Chun that there might not be a future. That the Kethrans were coming. That everyone on this moon was in danger. But who would believe her? She was just a traumatized 16-year-old girl who had panic attacks during class. I'll try harder, Zara said quietly. Mrs. Chun smiled and patted her shoulder. Good, now get to your next class, and Zara? Maybe talk to Dr. Reeves about adjusting your medication. Zara nodded and left the observation deck. But she didn't go to her next class. She went to the bathroom and locked herself in a stall. She pulled out her personal datapad, the one she had modified with extra processing power and encryption-breaking software. She checked her alerts. Her hands started shaking. The Kethran forward fleet had just entered detection range near Saturn. They would be at Jupiter in 3 weeks. Maybe less. Zara sat on the closed toilet lid and tried to breathe. In through the nose, out through the mouth. The way her therapist had taught her. It didn't help. Outside the stall, she heard voices. 2 girls from her grade. Emma and Sophia. They were talking as they fixed their makeup in the mirror. Did you see Zara run out of navigation again? Emma said, God, she's so weird. I know, right? Sophia replied, like, we get it, you had a hard life. But that was years ago. Get over it already? My mom says she should be in a special school, for damaged kids. They both laughed. Zara sat very still in the stall. She had heard this kind of talk before. It didn't hurt anymore. Or maybe she was just numb to it. Her datapad chirped again. Another alert. The Catherine fleet had increased speed. They would arrive in 2.5 weeks now. Zara made a decision. She couldn't go through proper channels. No one would believe her. But she had to do something. She pulled up her contact list. There was only one person who might listen. One person who had ever treated her like something other than a problem to be fixed. Mr. Okafor, her history teacher. He was ex-military. He had fought in the same war that killed her family. He had lost his leg below the knee and walked with a prosthetic now. He never talked about it, but Zara could see the understanding in his eyes when he looked at her. She typed out a message. Mr. Okafor, I need to talk to you. It's urgent. It's about the war, please. She hit send before she could change her mind. Then she sat in the bathroom stall and waited. Around her, the school continued its normal day. Students went to classes. Teachers gave lectures. Everyone worried about tests and homework and who was dating who. No one knew that death was coming for them. No one except Zara. She thought about her little brother, about the promise she had made to him before he died. She had promised to survive. She had promised to live for both of them. She had kept that promise so far. But survival wasn't enough anymore. If the Catherines came and she did nothing, all those people would die. All those normal, boring, beautiful lives would end just like on Proxima Centauri. Her datapad buzzed. A reply from Mr. Okafor. Come to my classroom after school. We'll talk. Zara stood up and left the bathroom. She walked through the halls with her head down. Students moved around her like water around a stone. She was used to being invisible. But soon everyone would see. Soon they would all know what she knew. The Catherines were coming. And this time Zara had to make them believe her before it was too late. Zara waited until the final bell rang. She watched students flood out of the building, laughing and pushing each other, making plans for the weekend. Normal teenage things. Things she had never learned how to do. She walked slowly to Mr. Okafor's classroom. Her hands were sweating. What if he didn't believe her? What if he thought she was crazy like everyone else did? The classroom was empty except for Mr. Okafor. He sat at his desk, grading papers. When Zara entered, he looked up and smiled. It was a tired smile, the smile of someone who understood pain. Close the door, Zara, he said quietly. She did. Then she stood in front of his desk, clutching her datapad. For a moment she couldn't speak. The words stuck in her throat. Take your time, Mr. Okafor said. Whatever it is, I'm listening. Zara took a deep breath. Then she placed her datapad on his desk and showed him everything. The intercepted communications. The fleet movements. The trajectory calculations. The timeline. Mr. Okafor's face went from concerned to confused to pale. He studied the data for several minutes. His hand trembled slightly as he scrolled through the information. Where did you get this? He finally asked. I found it in the school's network. They're using our communications relay without authorization. I decoded the encryption. Zara's voice was flat, professional, the voice of the girl who had survived a war. The signatures are authentic Catherine military. I checked them against the database from Proxima Centauri. This can't be right. But Mr. Okafor's voice said he knew it was. If this is real. It's real, Zara said. I've been tracking them for 3 days. They're getting closer. We have maybe 2 weeks before they're in strike range of Jupiter. Mr. Okafor stood up. His prosthetic leg made a soft clicking sound. We need to report this. Right now. They went together to the school security office. The officer on duty was a bored-looking man named Jensen. He barely looked up from his screen when they entered. We need to contact Europa Defense Command, Mr. Okafor said. We have intelligence about a potential threat. Jensen finally looked at them. His eyes moved from Mr. Okafor to Zara. Recognition flickered across his face. Is this about Miss Okonkwo's condition? This has nothing to do with that, Mr. Okafor said sharply. We have data that suggests, sir, with respect, I can't send every worried student's theory to the Defense Command. Especially not from someone with a history of stress responses. Jensen's voice was patronizing. Kind, but dismissive. Miss Okonkwo has been through trauma. It's natural for her to see threats where there aren't any. Maybe she should talk to her counselor. You're not listening, Zara said. Her voice came out harsh, desperate. The Kethrans are coming. They're going to kill everyone here just like they killed everyone on Proxima Centauri. You need to... That's enough, Jensen interrupted. I understand you're scared. But making wild accusations isn't helpful. Why don't you go home and rest? Maybe take your medication? Zara felt something break inside her. She grabbed her datapad and walked out. Behind her, she could hear Mr. Okafor arguing with Jensen. It wouldn't matter. People like Jensen never listened until it was too late. The next few days were a nightmare, Mr. Okafor tried to go through official channels. He contacted the Europa Defense Coordinator. He sent reports. He called in favors from his old military unit. Every door closed in his face. The defense coordinator's response was polite but firm. There has been no warning from Earth Command about Kethrin fleet movements. The data appears to be corrupted or misinterpreted. We appreciate your concern, but we cannot act on unverified civilian intelligence. Translation. They didn't believe them. Meanwhile, Zara's school life completely fell apart. She failed a chemistry exam that should have been easy. She couldn't focus in any of her classes. Her mind was always on the countdown. 13 days. 12 days. 11 days. Her only friend, Marcus Chun, noticed something was wrong. Marcus was quiet and smart, the kind of kid who spent lunch in the engineering lab building things. His parents had died in a mining accident 2 years ago. He understood loss even if he didn't understand war. You look terrible, Marcus said one day at lunch. He sat down across from her with his tray. What's going on? Nothing, Zara said automatically. That's a lie. Marcus unwrapped his sandwich. You're always a little bit sad. But this is different. You're scared. Zara wanted to tell him. She wanted to tell someone her own age, someone who might understand. But how could she explain? How could she make him believe? It's complicated, she said instead. Marcus shrugged. Okay, but if you want to talk, I'm here. That small kindness almost made her cry. She nodded and went back to pushing food around her plate. The breaking point came during a school assembly. The principal had organized a presentation called Celebrating Humanity's Resilience. It was supposed to be inspiring, a reminder of how strong humans were, how they had survived the war with the Kethrans, and built new homes in the solar system. The presentation included images from Proxima Centauri, photos of the colony before the attack, images of the destroyed cities after, a memorial list of the dead. Zara saw her brother's name on that list. She saw her parents' names. She saw the names of the 300 people she had saved and the thousands she couldn't breathe. The auditorium walls closed in around her. Everyone was staring at those images like they were history, like they were the past, but for Zara it was happening right now. It was always happening. And it was about to happen again. She stood up and ran. She didn't care that everyone was watching. She didn't care that she was making a scene again. She made it to the hallway before she collapsed. Her back against the wall, knees pulled to her chest, gasping for air that wouldn't come. Mr. Okafor found her. He sat down beside her on the floor and didn't say anything. He just sat there until her breathing slowed, until the panic attack passed. You see it, don't you? He finally said. You see it happening again? Zara nodded. Show me everything, Mr. Okafor said. Every piece of data, every calculation, everything. So she did. They went to an empty classroom and she laid it all out. The fleet positions, the speed calculations, the estimated arrival time, the attack patterns that matched Proxima Centauri exactly. Mr. Okafor studied it all. Then he pulled out his personal device. I have one more contact. Someone who might actually listen. He made a call. Zara couldn't hear the other side of the conversation, but she watched Mr. Okafor's face. Watched hope flicker there. "Captain Adami is comin'," he said when he hung up. "She's with the Jupiter Defense Fleet now. She was my commanding officer during the war. If anyone will take this seriously, it's her." "When?" Zara asked. "She be here in 12 hours. 12 hours. And after that, maybe they would finally believe her. Or maybe Captain Adami would be just like everyone else. Maybe she would see a traumatized girl instead of the intelligence analyst who had saved 300 lives." Zara went home that night and couldn't sleep. She lay in bed and watched the clock. She counted down. Not just to Captain Adami's arrival, but to the Catherine fleet. 10 days left. Maybe less. In her dreams she heard artillery fire. She heard her brother's voice asking when they could go home. She woke up knowing the truth. If no one believed her this time, there would be no home to go back to. For anyone. Captain Sarah Adami arrived exactly 12 hours later. She came in full combat armor with 2 soldiers flanking her. The school security nearly had a panic attack when 3 armed military personnel walked through the front entrance. Zara and Mr. Okafor met her in the principal's office. Principal Davies looked confused and angry at the military intrusion. But when Captain Adami showed her credentials, the woman went quiet. Captain Adami was tall and serious. She had scars on her face and hands. The kind of scars you got from real combat, not training exercises. She looked at Zara with sharp, calculating eyes. "You're the Okonkwo girl," she said. "Not a question. The one who hacked Catherine Communications during the Proxima siege." "Yes, ma'am," Zara said. "Show me what you found." Zara pulled out her datapad with shaking hands. She showed Captain Adami everything. The intercepted signals. The fleet movements. The timeline. The attack patterns. Captain Adami studied the data in silence. Minutes passed. No one spoke. Finally, she looked up. "This is real," she said flatly. "This is very, very real." Principal Davies made a choking sound. "What?" "No, that can't be. The encryption signatures match Catherine military protocols exactly," Captain Adami continued, ignoring the principal. "The fleet composition and movement patterns are consistent with an assault force. And the trajectory. She looked at Zara. "They're coming here. To Jupiter. To Europa specifically. How long do we have?" Mr. Okafor asked, "based on these calculations?" 9 days. "Maybe 8 if they push their engines harder?" Captain Adami stood up. "I need to contact Jupiter Defense Command immediately. We need to begin evacuation procedures right now." "Evacuation?" Principal Davies whispered. "Of the entire settlement?" "Of everyone we can fit on transport ships, yes." Captain Adami moved toward the door. "This settlement has 70,000 people. We have transport capacity for maybe 25,000, and that's if we overload every ship past safety limits." The words hung in the air like a death sentence. 45,000 people with nowhere to go. Zara felt sick. She had hoped the military would have a solution. A way to save everyone. But there was no miracle coming. Just math. Cold, brutal math. Over the next 2 days, chaos erupted. Captain Adami confirmed the threat through military channels. Jupiter Defense Command went to high alert. Earth was notified, but their main fleet was weeks away. Too far to help, evacuation planning began. But the official plan was a disaster. Bureaucrats argued about priority lists. Politicians debated who should be saved first. Meanwhile, the clock kept ticking. Zara couldn't sleep. She spent every night in the school's computer lab, running evacuation simulations. Every model came back with the same result: not enough time. Not enough ships, too many people left behind. She was running her 100th simulation when Marcus found her. It was 3 in the morning. The school was supposed to be locked. "You hacked the security system, didn't you?" he said, sitting down next to her. "Obviously," Zara muttered. Not looking away from her screens, Marcus studied the holographic displays floating around her. Fleet positions. Population densities. Transport capacities. "You're trying to save everyone again." "I can't," Zara said. Her voice cracked. "I've run every possible scenario. We can't save everyone. The best I can do is 35,000 people. That leaves 35,000 to die. Then we need more ships, Marcus said simply. We don't have more ships. No, but we have scrap. We have engineering equipment. We have fabrication facilities. Marcus pulled up his own datapad. My engineering club has been working on a project. A rapid assembly emergency pod system. It's not pretty, and it's barely space-worthy, but it can get people from Europa to the inner system. Zara looked at his designs. They were crude but functional. How many people per pod? 20. Maybe 25 if they're friendly. Marcus grinned. We can build 50 pods in a week if we have enough help. That's over 1,000 more people, Zara said. Hope flickered in her chest. Marcus, this could work. But we need more than just your club. We need everyone who knows how to build things. I can get them, Marcus said. But you need something too. You need people who can help with the evacuation planning. The official plan sucks. Everyone knows it. That's when Zara realized something. The students who struggled in school, the ones who didn't fit into neat categories, the broken ones like her, they had skills the adults weren't using. She started making calls. Private messages to students she barely knew but recognized. The outsiders. The weird ones. Leeway, who had severe anxiety that made it hard for him to leave his dorm room. But he was a communications genius who could optimize signal networks in his sleep. Aisha Martinez, who had a DHD so bad she couldn't sit through a full class. But she could see patter. MS in chaos that no one else noticed. Dmitry Volkov, who was on the autism spectrum and barely spoke to anyone. But he understood spacecraft systems better than most adult engineers. One by one they came. They met in the computer lab at night, this collection of teenagers that the school system had labeled as problems. And they went to work. Leeway redesigned the entire settlement's communication grid to handle evacuation traffic. Aisha analyzed population movement patterns and found bottlenecks in the official plan that would have caused deadly delays. Dmitry found ways to reconfigure civilian transport ships for 23% more capacity. Marcus's engineering club worked around-the-clock building emergency pods. They recruited other students. Word spread through the school. Kids who had never built anything before learned basic welding and assembly. The school's fabrication lab ran 24 hours a day, and Zara coordinated everything. She created a new evacuation plan from scratch. One that accounted for every variable the official plan ignored. One that could save 50,000 people instead of 35,000. But when they tried to present their plan to the settlement council, disaster struck. The council meeting was full of adults in expensive suits, politicians and administrators who had never seen combat. They looked at Zara and her friends like they were insects. Let me understand this correctly, Counselor Peterson said, his voice dripping with condescension. A group of high school students wants to replace the evacuation plan created by professional emergency management personnel? Our plan is better, Zara said simply. It saves 15,000 more people. Your plan is chaos, Peterson snapped. It relies on untested technology built by children in a school lab. It requires coordination that our people aren't trained for. And frankly, young lady, you are in no position to be giving advice. Perhaps you should focus on passing your classes before you try to run the colony. The other council members nodded, murmured agreement. Dismissed them. Zara felt something inside her crumble. She had survived a war. She had saved 300 people through her actions. She had given them data that proved the Catherine threat was real, and they were treating her like a stupid child. She stood up and walked out. Behind her, she heard Marcus and the others arguing with the council. It didn't matter. No one was listening. In the hallway outside the council chambers, Zara sat down against the wall. Students were passing by, going to classes, living their normal lives. They didn't know that the adults who were supposed to protect them were idiots. They didn't know that the official evacuation plan would kill them. She put her head in her hands and finally let herself cry. Not quiet tears. Big, gasping sobs that shook her whole body. She was so tired. So tired of being strong? So tired of knowing things no teenager should have to know? Zara, she looked up. Mr. Okafor stood there, and next to him Captain Ademi. I've been reviewing your plan, Captain Ademi said. The one you submitted to the council? They rejected it, Zara said bitterly. The council rejected it, Captain Ademi agreed. But I didn't. And I have the authority to override the council in military emergencies. She held out her hand. Come with me. We're going to do this right. Zara took her hand and stood up. What about the council? Captain Ademi smiled. It was not a kind smile. Let me worry about the politicians. You worry about saving lives? That's what you're good at. The evacuation command center was chaos. Officers shouted orders. Screens showed fleet positions and population maps. Red warning lights flashed everywhere. The Catherine fleet was 6 days away now. And in the middle of it all stood Zara and her friends. Teenagers in school uniforms, surrounded by military personnel in combat gear. The settlement director, a man named Collins, was furious. This is inappropriate. These are children. They have no place they have every place here, Captain Ademi cut him off. Her voice was cold as space. That 16-year-old girl has more combat logistics experience than everyone in this room combined. She saved 300 people under bombardment when she was 13 years old. How many have you saved, Director Collins? Collins opened his mouth. Closed it? Said nothing. I'm deputizing all of them as civilian advisors, Captain Ademi continued. They will work directly with my staff. Anyone who has a problem with that can take it up with Jupiter Command. Now, Miss Okonkwo, show us your plan. Zara stepped forward. Her hands were shaking, but her voice was steady. She had done this before. When bombs were falling and people were dying, she had done this. She pulled up her simulation on the main display. The official plan has 3 critical failures. First, it processes evacuees through centralized checkpoints. That creates bottlenecks. Second, it prioritizes government officials and wealthy families. That causes civil unrest and riots. Third, it doesn't account for the time needed to load elderly and disabled citizens. She changed the display. Our plan decentralizes everything. We assign people to the nearest transport based on location, not status. We use the school's bus system and industrial vehicles to move people efficiently. And we've built 50 emergency pods that can carry an additional 1,000 people. An older officer, Commander Harris, studied the display. This requires perfect coordination. If one piece fails, the whole thing collapses. That's where we come in, Li Wei said quietly. He was pale and sweating, clearly uncomfortable with so many people around. But he stepped forward anyway. I've reorganized the communication network. Every transport, every vehicle, every team leader has a dedicated channel. No interference. No delays, Asha added. I've mapped every possible traffic pattern. I know where congestion will happen before it happens. We can reroute in real time. Dmitri didn't speak. He just pulled up technical specifications for the transport ships. Showed how he had modified their cargo configurations. 23% more capacity without compromising safety. Marcus displayed the emergency pods. They're not pretty, but they're functional, and they're ready to launch. Commander Harris looked at Captain Ademi. This might actually work. It will work, Zara said, but only if we start now. We have 6 days. That's not enough time for political debates or committee meetings. We need to make decisions and move. Captain Ademi nodded. Commander Harris, integrate their plan with our current operations. Director Collins, you're going to authorize the use of all civilian resources for evacuation. That includes vehicles, facilities, and personnel. This is highly irregular, Collins started. This is a military emergency, Captain Ademi said. And if you interfere, I will have you removed from this facility. Are we clear? Collins went pale. He nodded. The next 6 days were a blur. Zara barely slept. She coordinated from the command center while the evacuation unfolded around her. The weird thing was school continued. Classes were still held. Teachers still gave homework. It was surreal. Zara would be in the command center directing the movement of 50,000 people. Then she would go to chemistry class and take notes on molecular bonds. Her classmates started treating her differently. The ones who had mocked her before now saw her on every news feed. The government-run channels tried to downplay it, but independent journalists were everywhere. Teenage war hero leads evacuation effort, read one headline. The girl who saved Proxima Centauri does it again, said another. Emma and Sophia. The girls who had called her weird tried to talk to her one day. We just wanted to say we're sorry, Emma said. About the things we said. We didn't understand. Zara looked at them. She was so tired. You didn't understand that I was trying to save your lives? They both looked down. It's fine, Zara said, and she meant it. She was too busy to hold grudges. Just get to your assigned transport on time when evacuation starts. On the fourth day, the Jupiter Defense Fleet engaged the Kethran Advanced Scouts. 2 defense ships were destroyed. 8 more were damaged. The Kethrans were testing their defenses. Learning their capabilities. Captain Ademi pulled Zara aside that night. Earth's main fleet won't get here in time. We're getting a fast response squadron, but it's small. We can delay the Kethrans, but we can't stop them. How long can you give us? Zara asked. 4 hours. Maybe 5. That's how long we can hold them before they break through to Europa. 4 hours to evacuate 70,000 people. It wasn't enough time. Zara ran the numbers again. And again. No matter how she adjusted the variables, people would be left behind. Then we need a distraction, Marcus said. He had been listening from across the command center. Something to make them think there are more targets than there are. The industrial platforms, Dmitri said suddenly. Everyone turned to look at him. He spoke so rar. Illy that when he did, people listened. The mining and manufacturing platforms in orbit. They have power cores. We could make them look like military installations. Zara understood immediately. Decoys, we light them up with fake energy signatures. Make the Kethrans think they're weapon platforms or defense stations. They'll waste time destroying them. That could buy us an extra 30 minutes, Captain Ademi said. But someone would have to stay on those platforms to maintain the deception. The systems can't be automated. The Kethrans would detect it. The command center went silent. Everyone understood what that meant. Whoever stayed on those platforms would die. The Kethrans would destroy them. I'll do it, Mr. Okafor said. He stepped forward from where he had been observing. I'm old. I've lived my life. These kids haven't. You're not old, Zara protested. You're only 42. Old enough, Mr. Okafor smiled. And I've been looking for a way to make my life count since the war. Looks like I found it. Other people volunteered. Retired military personnel. Engineers who had no family. A dozen people willing to die so others could live. Zara wanted to scream. Wanted to find another way. But there was no other way. This was war. War meant impossible choices. War meant sacrifice. On the 6th day, the Kethran main fleet arrived. They came out of FTL at the edge of Jupiter's gravity well. 30 ships. Enough firepower to glass Europa 3 times over. The evacuation order went out at 0600 hours. Throughout New Geneva settlement, alarms blared. People grabbed emergency packs and ran to their assigned transports. The plan Zara had created came to life. It was beautiful in its own way. 70,000 people moving like a machine. No panic, no riots. Everyone knowing exactly where to go. Zara watched from the command center. She wore a headset, coordinating with team leaders across the settlement. Liwei managed communications. Asha tracked movement patterns and called out problems before they became disasters. Dmitri monitored the transport ships. Marcus oversaw the emergency pod launches. The first transport lifted off at 0630, then the second. Then a dozen more. The Jupiter Defense Fleet engaged the Kethrans. Captain Ademi led the defense personally. Zara watched the tactical display as friendly ships threw themselves at the enemy. buying minutes with lives. One ship exploded, then another. Each explosion was someone's parent, someone's friend, someone who would never go home. Mr. Okafor and his volunteers activated the decoy platforms. The industrial facilities lit up with fake energy signatures. Mimicking weapon systems and shield generators, the Kethrans took the bait. They broke formation and began destroying the platforms. It was working. Transport 17 away, 18, 19. Marcus counted off each ship that made it to safety. Then the Kethrans realized the deception. They started to pivot. Energy beams lanced through space toward the fleeing transports. Zara felt time slow down. She saw it happening. Transport 23 was too slow. It wouldn't make it. 2,000 people were going to die. And then the Earth Fast Response Squadron arrived. 6 heavy cruisers dropped out of FTL right on top of the Kethran formation. They weren't enough to win, but they were enough to create chaos. The distraction worked. Transport 23 jumped to FTL, then 24. 20-5. Mr. Okafor's platform exploded. Zara saw it on the tactical display. One moment it was there, the next it was just debris. She didn't cry. She couldn't. There were still 3 more transports to get away. She did her job. The final transport jumped at 11:34 hours. 52,000 civilians saved. Not everyone, but more than any official plan would have managed. The command center erupted in cheers. People hugged each other, cried with relief. Zara sat down. Her legs gave out. It was over. They had done it. Marcus grabbed her hand. We did it. We actually did it. Captain Adami approached them. Her armor was scorched. She had been in the fighting. The transports are safe. The Kethrans are pulling back. Earth's main fleet just arrived. It's over. Zara nodded. She couldn't speak. Her throat was tight. Mr. Okafor was dead. 8 defense ships were destroyed. Hundreds of soldiers had died to buy them time, but 52,000 people were alive. 52,000 people who would grow old, have families, live lives? You should be proud, Captain Adami said to all of them. What you did here. History will remember this. But Zara didn't care about history. She cared about the people. About Marcus and Liwei and Aisha and Dimitri. About all the students who had helped. About Mr. Okafor who had believed in her. She cared about the price they had paid. And the fact that they had paid it willingly, that was what made them human. Not the technology or the ships or the weapons. The willingness to sacrifice for each other. To stand against the darkness even when afraid. We should go, Marcus said gently. The transports are waiting for us. Right, they had to evacuate too. Zara stood up and followed her friends out of the command center. Behind them, Europa burned. The Kethrans bombarded the empty settlement. But it didn't matter. Everyone was gone. The colony was just buildings. The people were safe, and that was all that mattered. 3 weeks later, Zara sat in a temporary classroom on Ganymede. The refugees from Europa had been scattered across Jupiter's other moons. Schools had been set up in emergency facilities. Life was slowly returning to normal. Except nothing was normal. Zara had been on every major news network. Politicians wanted to meet her. Military academies offered her full scholarships. People called her a hero, again, but right now she had to take a chemistry test. The irony wasn't lost on her. She had coordinated the evacuation of 50,000 people. She had worked with military officers and made life-or-death decisions. 3 weeks ago, admirals asked for her advice. Today, she was staring at questions about molecular bonds and couldn't remember half the material. Her hands shook as she held her pencil. The classroom was too quiet, too peaceful. Her brain kept expecting alarms, explosions, the sound of artillery fire. Marcus sat next to her. He glanced over and gave her an encouraging nod. He had finished his test already. Of course he had. Marcus was good at school in a way Zara had never been. Zara took a deep breath and tried to focus. Question 1. Explain the difference between ionic and covalent bonds. She knew this. She had studied this. But the words wouldn't come. She thought about Mr. Okafor, about how he had sat with her in that empty classroom and looked at her data when no one else would. About his last transmission from the industrial platform. Worth it, kid. You were always worth it. Her eyes burned. She blinked hard and forced herself to write something. Anything, even if it was wrong. The test took an hour. When time was up, Mr. Reeves collected the papers. He paused at Zara's desk. No rush, he said quietly. Take your time. And Zara? He hesitated. Thank you. My daughter was on Transport 12. Because of you, she's alive. Zara nodded. She couldn't speak. Her throat was too tight. After class, she walked through the temporary facility. It was nothing like New Geneva Secondary School. The walls were bare metal. The floors were industrial grading. Everything smelled like recycled air and disinfectant, but kids laughed in the hallways. They complained about homework. They made plans for weekend activities that would happen in refugee rec rooms instead of proper facilities. They were alive. That was what mattered, Zara Okonkwo? She turned. A woman in military dress uniform stood there. Captain Ademi. But now she wore Admiral's insignia. She had been promoted after the battle. Admiral, Zara said. Congratulations on the promotion. Walk with me, Ademi said. They walked through the facility in silence for a while. Finally, they reached an observation deck. Through the reinforced glass, they could see Jupiter's massive form. And in the distance, Europa, where Zara had lived for the past 3 years, the settlement was gone. The Kethrans had destroyed everything. But they had done it to an empty colony? A monument to humanity's survival. The Defense Ministry wants to offer you a position, Ademi said. Training role. Teaching officers about crisis logistics and adaptive strategy. How to think like you think. I'm 16, Zara said. I know. The position would start after you graduate. If you want it? Ademi looked at her. But I need to be honest with you, Zara. The offer comes with expectations. The military wants to study you, understand how you do what you do. They want to create protocols based on your methods. They want to turn me into a weapon, Zara said flatly. They want to save lives. The same way you do. Ademi paused. But yes, they see you as an asset, a valuable one. And that comes with pressure, expectations, a loss of privacy. Your life won't be your own anymore. Zara thought about that. She had never had a normal life. Not really. The war had taken that from her when she was 11 years old. Maybe she was never meant to be normal, but did she want to spend her life being what other people needed her to be? Can I think about it? She asked. Take all the time you need. You've earned it. Ademi started to leave, then stopped. For what it's worth, Zara, you don't owe anyone anything. You've already saved more lives than most people who serve their entire careers. If you want to walk away and just be a teenager, no one has the right to judge you for that. After the Admiral left, Zara stayed in the observation deck. She watched Jupiter's storm swirl. Thought about everything that had happened. Her datapad buzzed. A message from Li Wei. Study group tonight? Asha's room. Physics exam tomorrow. You coming? She smiled. A real smile. And typed back, yes, I'll bring snacks. That evening, she sat with her friends in Asha's cramped quarters. The 5 of them who had saved a world. Marcus explained physics problems. Li Wei made bad jokes. Dmitri corrected everyone's calculations with obsessive precision. Aisha got distracted every 5 minutes, but somehow still understood everything. They were just kids. Weird kids. Broken kids. Kids who didn't fit into neat categories or meet normal expectations, but they were alive. And they were together. Did you pass the chemistry test? Marcus asked during a break. I don't know, Zara admitted. I don't think so. That's okay, Aisha said. You saved my life. I think that's worth more than a chemistry test. The school doesn't see it that way, Zara said. But she smiled. But yeah, I guess it is. They studied until late. When Zara finally went back to her own quarters, she felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Peace, not happiness, exactly. The war would always be part of her. The loss would always hurt, but she was learning to live with it. Learning that survival wasn't just about staying alive. It was about finding moments of joy even in the darkness, about having friends who understood, about accepting that some wounds never fully healed, and that was okay. The next morning, she got her chemistry test back. She had failed. A big red 47% marked the top of the page. Mr. Reeves pulled her aside after class. "I know this is difficult for you. If you need extra time or accommodations, it's fine," Zara said. And surprisingly, she meant it. "I'll study harder for the next one." She wouldn't always fail. Some days she would do well. Some days she would struggle. That was life. The important thing was that she kept trying. 2 months later, Admiral Ademi visited again. "Have you made a decision about the training position?" Zara had thought about it a lot. She had talked to Marcus and her other friends. She had talked to her therapist, Dr. Reeves, who had helped her process the new trauma from the evacuation. "I'll do it," she said. "But on my terms. I'm not joining the military. I'll work as a civilian consultant, and I get to finish school first. No special accelerated programs or early graduation. I want a normal senior year. As normal as I can get anyway." Ademi smiled. "I think that's wise. They'll agree to your terms. You have more leverage than you realize." "Good, because I'm also going to require that they hire Leeway and Dimitri and Asha and Marcus too. We work as a team. That's not negotiable." "Done," Ademi said without hesitation. "The military needs people who think differently. Your whole team proved that." After she left, Zara went to the observation deck again. Her favorite spot. She looked out at Jupiter and thought about the future. It wouldn't be easy. She would still have panic attacks, still have nightmares, still struggle with normal things that other teenagers took for granted, but she would also save lives. Use her skills for something important. And she would do it with her friends beside her. That night, Marcus found her there. He sat down next to her without saying anything. They watched Jupiter's storms in comfortable silence. "You okay?" he finally asked. "Yeah," Zara said. And for once it wasn't a lie. "I think I am." "Good." Marcus pulled out his datapad. "Because I need help with the physics homework. This stuff makes no sense." Zara laughed. A real, genuine laugh. "You saved 1,000 people with those emergency pods and you can't do basic physics homework?" "Everyone has their strengths," Marcus said defensively. They worked on homework together as Jupiter spun below them. Two teenagers doing normal teenage things. Except they weren't normal. They never would be, but that was okay. Normal was overrated anyway. The universe needed people who could think differently, who could solve impossible problems, who could stand up when everything was falling apart and say, "Not today. Today we fight. Today we survive." The universe needed broken people who refused to stay broken. The universe needed people like Zara. Lee. After everything, she was learning to accept that. Learning that her struggles didn't make her weak. They made her strong in ways that mattered. The war had taught her to save others. School was teaching her to save herself. Both were hard. Both mattered. Both made her human. 10 years later, Commander Zara Okonkwo would revolutionize military training. She would teach officers about neurodivergent thinking and adaptive strategy. Her textbook, Survival Isn't Glory, Logistics and Leadership, Under Pressure, would become required reading at every officer academy in human space. She would still struggle with PTSD, some wounds never fully healed, but she would also save countless lives, prevent countless tragedies. And she would do it while being honest about her struggles, showing others that you could be broken and brilliant at the same time. That survival wasn't about being perfect. It was about being persistent, that the girl who struggled in secondary school was the same girl who saved 2 worlds, and both versions of her mattered. Both were real. Both were worthy, but that was 10 years in the future. Right now, in this moment, She was just a 16-year-old girl helping her friend with homework while Jupiter spun below. And that was enough. That was everything.